So hello, and thank you for taking the time to listen to this military audio interview. I'm an alcoholic. My name is Jerry. I'm a retired member of the Royal Canadian Air Force. I was a helicopter pilot for 35 plus years. And I'm acting today as one of the volunteers doing this interview project. I'll be doing the interview, posing some questions, and talking back and forth with one of our members. Today, it's my pleasure to welcome Alex Fee. Alex is a member of the Canadian military. I'll let him take a moment to introduce himself, give you his background and more details as to when he joined and when he became a member of Alcoholics Anonymous. After he's finished with a brief self-introduction, we'll go into a series of questions, which hopefully will bring out some interesting information for someone listening. So with no further ado, Alex, welcome. Thank you very much for being here with us today. And as I just mentioned, over to you for a moment or two to introduce yourself.
Thanks, Jerry. My name is Alex. I'm an alcoholic. I'm a Lieutenant Navy in the Royal Canadian Navy. I've been in for 10 years now. I'm a recovering alcoholic, member of AA. I haven't had a drink of alcohol since February 20th, 2018. I hope that by sharing a bit of my story in this audio, I might help someone just like I was back then who knows there's a problem and is trying to figure out what to do about it next. I started drinking at 15 years old, joined the military in 2012 as a DEO a year after finishing university. And I've served on most of Her Majesty's Canadian ships on the West Coast, as well as a bit of time here in Ottawa. Getting and staying sober in AA definitely hasn't hurt. It's brought about positive changes in my military career and in my life in general. And I'm happy to share a bit about that here.
Thank you, Alex. So what was your early experience with alcohol like?
I remember countless times where I'd be crying drunk or sober for that matter, saying that I needed help and I couldn't stop. And I didn't know why. And I think while I was definitely genuine in those moments at first, they quickly turned into, an episode directed by my alcoholism that trying to get some sympathy or figure out a way to secure my next drink.
Yeah, I hear you. When you made the decision to join the military, did the way you were drinking or did your drinking play any part in that? Were you concerned that you drank too much and they might not care for that? Or did you think that, hey, the Navy, that's a great place to go to drink all the time? What kind of an attitude did you have, if at all, it was associated with your drinking pattern when it came to joining the military?
Alcohol and getting my next drink, the planning, it was part of my everyday life. One way to describe it is like, my wife or a mistress, because it totally consumed all my decisions. That's an interesting question. Looking back, if anything, maybe I did a quick risk assessment and said, no, this is not going to interfere with my drinking. But besides that, I know I had a ton of fun at basic training. Not sure if that was supposed to be fun or not, but not the standing out in the field parts, but the drinking is what makes me say that. But I also want to add, there was never any pressure to drink though. If that's what you're getting at, like looking back, it was all pressure that I put on myself. And bottom line, I wanted that pressure. Like maybe there was no I created the pressure to myself, anything to justify my drinking.
So you mentioned before that you joined as a DEO or a direct entry officer. So you completed university then, if I still remember how all those programs worked. So you'd be in your early 20s when you joined, went through basic training, you mentioned, and my memories too. We remember the good stuff. We're wonderful and selective memory. And off to the Navy you go. And I believe that you originally were what was used to be called a Mars officer back in the day, and now is a naval warfare officer.
Drinking did play a part in the troubles that I had day to day. In fact, it was one of the main reasons I would say that I had difficulties. But it wasn't often at work. I had a lot of close calls where superiors made comments or had suspicions. But I was never counseled formally. And people have covered for me in the military, but they've also covered for me in civilian life as well. As an alcoholic, I surrounded myself with enablers and I picked and chose. So, I wouldn't say there's a big difference between the two there.
That's excellent. Thank you, Alex. How did you know then that you needed help? What brought you to the moment of saying, I have to do something about this? Apart from, as we already discussed, those moments where you said you couldn't stop and you needed help, but when it became concrete, when it became something you actually did, what did that look like?
Yeah. So, I mean, from an early in my drinking, I knew, I think deep down that I needed help, but obviously the military has a special asterisk beside the job. I'm a Canadian, I'm an officer in the forces, but I'm also, a father, a husband, son, brother. Not only did my life as an officer in the military take a hit, but my life as a father and brother and son did as well. I was exhausted. All the lies that I would tell, the constant scheming, it got really tiring. I was on the West Coast at Christmas. I got leave to come back east for the holidays, like I did every morning the day of our flight. I woke up early and started drinking before everyone got up, and I tried to consume just enough to get me through a nice buzz to get me through the day of traveling. And a friend of my wife's took us to the airport. Myself, my wife, and my daughter. The next thing I know, I was waking up in our bed back home, and I passed out and was in one of the chairs off to the side at the airport, and they wouldn't let us on the flight, and they had rebooked it for later in the day. And then in the new year, same thing, leaving Vancouver Island to go to the mainland, same kind of episode with the ferry. I think I would say if you think you need help, you probably need help by taking a drink and driving. For example, I've come to see that for a non-alcoholic, a DUI, they don't get another one. They say to themselves, I messed up here. That was a bad decision. That could have cost my life, somebody else's life. I'm not going to do that again. Or passing out for an important meeting. If I drink too much and miss a meeting or miss an important gathering, okay, I'm not going to do that again.
Alex, this has been great. I think we've covered the whole waterfront, pardon the awful pun for two Navy guys. But before I finish, I want to just give you that open-ended question. Is there anything else you'd like to share? Any areas we haven't delved into that you think would be worth mentioning or discussing for somebody like we were back in the day, listening to from your own life experience as a member of Alcoholics Anonymous and a member of the Canadian military?
Yeah, I just quickly wanted to tell a story. It sums it up for me beautifully. So one day after work, I'm walking through the park with some of my coworkers and my family, and I'm drunk, and it's a beautiful day. And but I'm drunk. I end up stepping in a deep hole, and I can't get out. And my wife, she tells the group, I know what to do. I'll be right back. So she leaves. She comes back with the psychiatrist, and we talk for a bit. And $110 bill later, and I'm still stuck in the hole. So my buddy, one of my coworkers, he says, I'll be right back. So he goes to the MIR, brings the doc to the park in this hole, and the doc does some tests while I'm in this hole, and she's asking me some questions, but she can only do so much with me being down in this hole. And 25 minutes later, I'm still in the hole. And so my parents say, okay, I got it. And the doc leaves with my parents, and they bring back a priest. And now I'm talking to this priest, and he's going on about life and having a good conversation, but it's getting dark. And so the priest says, I'll be back tomorrow. And as the whole group leaves, and just as they're out of sight leaving the park, there's an alcoholic walking by, and he sees me in the hole and he jumps in. And I start panicking. What are you doing? Now we're both stuck down here. And he says, don't worry, I've been here before. I know the way out. And that's what AA has done for me, plain and simple. Like it's saved my life. I'd also like to say, just go easy on yourself to anybody who's listening to this. But
that's great, Alex. That's perfect. Thank you very much. I'd like to thank Alex for taking the time to be with us today, and I'd like to finish the interview by saying sort of what we said at the beginning. We really hope that what we've offered to you today might be helpful to you. If you're in the situation that we were in, you've got some sort of a problem and you're not sure exactly what you can do about it, you may well be like one of us. And if you are, we sure hope you come and try Alcoholics Anonymous, try a few meetings, talk to some members. It very possibly could save your life. And if it isn't the thing for you, if alcoholism isn't what's actually in your life or what your problem is, we would reassure you that although alcoholism has been recognized as a disease, an illness by medical societies, it isn't contagious. So if you come to AA meetings, you can't catch it from us. So we hope you've enjoyed listening to this. We hope it's been of some help, and we thank you for your time. Thank you.